Star Wars month on my channel before the Skywalker Saga comes to an end. Hey guys, Harry Thomas here and welcome ladies and gentlemen to part 1 of Star Wars month on my channel to celebrate the release of the epic final installments of the Skywalker Saga in the Star Wars franchise. And I did a Lion King month and Frozen months on my channel previously, and I am loving these months. So I thought some Star Wars a month before December would be perfect, and what better video to begin than my ranking of the Star Wars lightsaber fights. The majority of these are from Revenge of the Sith, so without further ado, if you want to know my thoughts on each of the lightsaber fights from the Star Wars saga, then just keep watching. At number 12, at the very bottom, I may be in the huge minority here, but for me, the worst Star Wars lightsaber fight would be Luke versus Kylo Ren from The Last Jedi. You all know my disdain for the direction Rian Johnson took with The Last Jedi, but I'm like, come on Ryan, at least give us an epic lightsaber fight or two. Lightsaber fights are consistently my favourite part of the saga, and he couldn't even get that right. This fight completely sucks. All it is Luke ducking Kylo's swings, and Luke never does any swinging himself, and the fight is all over in a flash when we find out that this Luke was just a freaking force projection of Luke. Luke just sat on his damn island and never physically came to the Resistance. And wait, it gets even worse. Luke then freaking dies shortly after. I'm like, what the actual fuck, Rian Johnson? This is how Luke Skywalker goes down? Everybody I know hated the decision to kill Luke off that way. Yeah, I mean, the one compliment I can give this fight is that at least The Last Jedi attempted to have a lightsaber fight, whereas Rogue One and Solo had 0 fights. At number 11, I am certain I would rate this fight lower than most, but ObiWan versus Darth Vader from A New Hope. Granted, this was the very first lightsaber fights in the saga, so of course it was going to be the most simplistic from the start. But George Lucas could have choreographed it better than he did. While the conflict in this fight is the thing that keeps you invested. A vengeful Darth Vader just wanting to slay his master for leaving him for dead on Mustafar 19 years ago. Obi-Wan courageously holding off Vader and keeping Vader's attention fixed on him to buy Luke, Leia and Han time to escape the Death Star. But the fight itself is pathetic. All this is Obi-Wan and Vader just tapping swords. And this is a Jedi and Sith master. You'd think they'd do more complicated moves with their blades than that. Though Obi-Wan's death when Vader does cut him down and Obi-Wan becomes one with the Force. Now that was a tear-jerky finale to the fight. But yeah, thankfully the fights would get more choreographed as the saga would progress. At number 10, for me, the most underrated Star Wars lightsaber fight period. Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda versus Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. Your Attack of the Clones is one of the more problematic Star Wars movies, but you can't deny the lightsaber fights is the most thrilling parts. Though my one nitpick with this is that how come Obi-Wan can defeat Darth Maul and General Grievous, but he can't ever defeat Count Dooku? Dooku should be like a piece of cake for him, but still, and this fight ties into and how Darth Vader got his mechanical hand, as we see Count Dooku was the one to cut off his hand in the fight, and but the most epic part easily is when Yoda himself steps in, and we get such a terrific force fight before Yoda and Dooku clash lightsabers, and how Yoda totally overpowers Count Dooku in his knowledge of the Force. And it's the first time we ever get to see Yoda fight in the entire saga, something I would have loved to have seen in the originals. How is this not a special moment? At number 9, Anakin and ObiWan versus Count Dooku from Revenge of the Sith. The opening of Revenge of the Sith is one of the greatest Star Wars openings ever, and this lightsaber fight was the tour de force of this opening. It's an improvement choreography-wise over the fights from Attack of the Clones, as it's faster this time, and though how does Obi-Wan still get his arse handed to him? But this fight showcases Anakin's first dark deed in the movie. Anakin at this point is no longer a Padawan learner. He is a full-on Jedi Knight, and he's twice as skilled as he was 3 years ago. He cuts Dooku's hands off, and Palpatine encourages Anakin to finish Dooku off here. So Anakin reluctantly decapitates Dooku's head. And you're like, damn, Anakin, sure Dooku was a Sith Lord, but that's going too far. You are... At number 8, Obi-Wan versus General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. Now, I know you're all wondering how come I'm not including the fight with Jango and Obi-Wan from Attack of the Clones. That, to me, doesn't count as a proper lightsaber fight, as Jango never had a lightsaber, did he? He just had a blaster the entire time, but Grievous does have lightsabers, and not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 4 of them. Yeah, and Obi-Wan, he slays Grievous, and Grievous is wielding 4 lightsabers, and though the lightsaber part of the fight is cut short with the arrival of the clone army on Utapau, but then we get a original and incredibly fast-paced chase scene. Obi-Wan is chasing down Grievous on his reptile. And Grievous is literally the droid version of Darth Vader. He is made of steel on the outside, but Obi-Wan figures out on the inside Grievous is vulnerable, so he blasts Grievous in the chest with a blaster, and so this fight is an example of brains over brawn. At number 7, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul from The Phantom Menace. Even if you're a Phantom Menace hater, you have to admit the lightsaber fights is the movie's biggest redeeming quality. The first lightsaber fight where we see 3 characters fights instead of just 2, and after the slowly choreographed fights of the originals, I'm sure audiences back in 1999, 20 years ago, would have been blown the fuck away to witness a fight of this scale on the big screen. They were like, holy shit, this is more like it. And Darth Maul with his double-bladed lightsaber is strongly holding his own against 2 Jedi, and after Qui-Gon is tragically murdered by Maul, then Obi-Wan just loses control of his emotions. He unleashes a ray of fast attacks on Maul. Sure, it's a bummer that Maul is killed off this soon in the prequels. Yeah, I do kind of wish he was Sidious's apprentice throughout the prequels instead of Count Dooku, but still. And my favourite thing about this entire fight is John Williams' astonishing score, the da-dan, 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 dan-dan. At number 6, Mace Windu versus Palpatine from Revenge of the Sith. This is yet another underrated fight for me. This is the true dramatic turning point of Revenge of the Sith. Most would say Order 66 would be that. This is the moment where Revenge of the Sith truly takes off for me personally, when Palpatine no longer keeps his identity from the Jedi as secrets. This is the first time we get to see Palpatine fights, and he shows to be an equal match for even one of the greatest Jedi Masters, Mace Windu. Though did Palpatine deliberately let Windu beat him to give Anakin some time to come in and make the decision to turn to the dark side, maybe, because Palpatine is constantly scheming these things, and then when Palpatine is blasting Windu with his Sith lightning, and Windu is holding it back with his lightsaber, and Palpatine's face is literally deformed. And that is the answer to how Palpatine had that appearance in the originals. But Anakin is convinced at this point he needs Palpatine to save Padme's life, and he cuts Mace Windu's hand off in time for Palpatine to bombard Windu with his Sith lightning. He's like, unlimited power. At number 5, Yoda versus Palpatine from Revenge of the Sith. This is the best of the two fights Yoda has in the saga. We finally get to see the greatest Jedi and greatest Sith clash. And this is the Star Wars version of the Dumbledore versus Voldemort fights, where Yoda finally faces an adversary that's his equal. He never feels safe in this fight for an instant. We get a perfect combo of a lightsaber and a Force battle when Palpatine is chucking these pods at Yoda with the Force. Even though Yoda may have failed and gave it his all, he did. At number 4, Anakin versus Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith. Final lightsaber fights in the movie, and the most important one. Revenge of the Sith is the one Star Wars movie to feature more than one lightsaber duel. It's by far the most emotionally hard-hitting and impactful of these fights. It's not a fight between Jedi and Sith this time. It's a fight between two former best friends that have picked different sides now and are now forced to attempt to kill one another for the other to succeed in their goal. And I don't care that this fight goes on for so long, because my eyes were filled with tears throughout, especially with John Williams's electrifying score. The da 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 da. And then when Obi-Wan is forced to cut off Anakin's legs, and he's like, "You are the chosen one. It was said you would destroy the Sith, not join them." You feel a legit loss by the conclusion of this fight, and it shows how Ewan McGregor is one of the few great actors in the prequels. At number 4, Luke and Darth Vader versus Palpatine in Return of the Jedi. This was at the time the final lightsaber fight in the saga, and also one of the most emotional, as as Luke makes the greatest effort I've ever seen anybody make to resist the temptation of the dark side. We see how far Luke has come as a badass Jedi, as this time the tables have turned. He is the one thrashing Vader, and Vader is constantly attempting to lure Luke to the dark side by bringing Leia into it. He's like, if you will not turn to the dark side, perhaps she will. And Luke is pissed. He's like, you stay the fuck away from my sister. And he lets out every single ounce of his fury on Vader, and as Palpatine is prompting Luke to kill Vader and take his place as his apprentice, Luke realizes he's becoming more and more like his father, and he's like, fuck no. The dark side will never be for me. I'm a Jedi. And Palpatine's like, he isn't worth it. If he picks the Jedi, he has picked death. Palpatine brutally electrocutes Luke with his Sith lightning. Vader finally has his long-awaited change of heart and goes back to being Anakin. Palpatine attempting to murder his son was enough to snap him out of it. He's finally had enough of Palpatine's deception, so he saves Luke's life just in time. And even though this leads to Vader's death, at least his death wasn't in vain. At number 2, what the majority would put as their number 1 choice, Luke versus Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. This fight entirely makes up for that short and underwhelming fight with Darth Vader and ObiWan in A New Hope, as Luke, without proper Jedi training, finally confronts Darth Vader, and one of the greatest protagonists and one of the greatest antagonists in movie history finally duke it out, but Vader is totally whooping Luke's ass as a young Padawan is no match for a fully trained Sith Lords. And Vader initially takes it easy on Luke, but as this all things epic fight reaches its electrifying climax, he gets far more savage to the point where he cuts Luke's hand off, and then he reveals the most shocking and most famous plot twist in all of cinema. I am your father. You would be shunned by the Star Wars fandom if you spoiled that twist to anybody before they seen the movie back in 1980. Luke is willing to jump to his death rather than join the dark side, and he has totally matures from the whiny farm boy that he was in A New Hope. And my number 1 favourite Star Wars lightsaber fight would be none other than Rey versus Kylo Ren from The Force Awakens, my personal favourite Star Wars movie. This fight, for me, is even more emotionally investing than Luke versus Vader. As Kylo Ren, we hate him more than any other Star Wars villain in existence. He just took Han Solo from us. Han frigging Solo is gone, and what's even worse, Kylo just murdered and betrayed his own father. We are rooting for Rey and Finn all the way to give Kylo a what for that, and Finn, even though he isn't a Force user or a Jedi, does put up a decent fight against Kylo, though he does sadly gets a lightsaber slicer through his spine, and after that, a plot twist even more awesome than Darth Vader being Luke's father happens. turns out Rey is the Force user of the movie, even though Finn was marketed to be the lightsaber holder on the poster. And this is the first of the live action movies where we get to see a female fight, and Rey 100% owns Kylo Ren, and this leaves us with countless questions for the cliffhanger. You're like, who are Rey's parents? What is the truth behind her extreme force and lightsaber skills? It's also a flawless blend of fighting styles from the prequels and the originals, and you feel the sense of urgency in the fights. You're as Starkiller Base is gradually collapsing. You're like, Rey, just beat his ass and get off that planet already. So yeah, and I am beyond hyped to see if the lightsaber fights between Rey and Kylo in Rise of Skywalker can dethrone this. So yeah, I'm proud to call the fight between Rey and Kylo the best Star Wars lightsaber fight. So that was my personal ranking of the 12 lightsaber fights in a galaxy far, far away. Well, I love you guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this ranking. And what's your ranking of the lightsaber fights? So please comment and let me know. Please like this video and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. And I'll see you all next time where I continue Star Wars month and as well as review some Christmassy movies. And remember, movies are us. Bye, guys.